everybody. I'm Greg Fox with WESH 2 News and WESH.com, and this is another in our series of debates in this 2022 election cycle. Of course, we're focusing on the primary at this point, and right now we're talking to the Democratic candidates in the primary for Congress District 8, which includes Brevard County, Indian River County, and a portion of East Orange County. And the candidates are Joanne Terry and Danelle Dodge. Ladies, thank you both for joining us today. We appreciate your time. The winner of this primary is going to go up against the Republican incumbent in this district, Bill Posey. Let's first get to know you a little bit better. We'll give you each a minute to tell us a little bit about who you are and why you want to run. And we'll start with Joanne Terry.
Well, thank you very much, Greg, for having us today and for allowing us to have this debate. My name is Joanne Terry. I am a retired satellite systems engineer and a prior board member from the League of Women Voters of the Space Coast, and I live in Satellite Beach. And I entered this race last year after I watched our incumbent vote against certifying the 2022 election results and then continue to vote with the most extreme elements of his party instead of for the interests of this district. I am very concerned about the threat to our republic from Trump loyalists this year. And I think that it's very important that we all come together to save the republic and to start making some progress on the issues that are very important to us here in this district. You know, I have already shown that I have grassroots support for this office by getting all of my ballot petitions signed, including from voters from across the political spectrum. So I'm confident that I can attract the swing voters that it's going to take to finally make a change after 14 years of the same representation. So that is why I'm running, and I'm super excited, and I'm really looking forward to representing this district. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And that was closer to a minute and a half, minute 45. So I'll give the same amount of time to Ms. Dodge. Go ahead.
Hello, Greg. Thank you so much again for inviting us. Good afternoon. I am Danelle Dodge, and I am running for Florida's 8th Congressional District because we are at an impasse. Almost 50% of people of District 8 do not have the financial stability to survive with increases in the cost of household goods and high gas prices. Why? So oil companies can have a 300% increase over profits from last year? We do not allow companies to price gouge during hurricanes, so we should not now when working families are being pushed into poverty. We need a leader that thinks outside the box, finds ways to shine a light on our community to ensure our people see tangible benefits from their votes and their tax dollars. I am that leader. I grew up in public housing, the projects, with a single mother that worked hard at the gas station, even though we had no car to fill up. I went to Head Start, ate free school lunch, government cheese, and powdered milk to survive. But you know what? I was not a throwaway child. Your children are not throwaway children. Because of democratic policies and opportunities afforded to me, my children have benefited from my success, and now they give back too. We must keep the doors of opportunity open for the next generation. We must not forget the sacrifices of the generations that have come before us. We must make sure that every person is treated with dignity and respect. The value of people must be our most important priority. Thank you.
All right, thank you. A lot of what's going to be important for Democrats voting in this primary is to understand how the two of you are different, maybe how your leadership styles are different. We'll stick with Ms. Dodge and then go back to Ms. Terry. Tell me about your leadership style if you are sent to DC, Danelle, and exactly how that, in your view, is different from your opponent.
Thank you. My leadership style is to lead by example, to go out and be part of the community, to be part of the solution. I believe we need to walk the talk, and we have done that already in our campaign. One way we did that was we invited people from around Florida and specifically Brevard County to go with us to Washington, D.C. to speak truth to power about the Supreme Court taking away women's rights. Another way we're doing that locally in the community is with the Essence of Knowledge bookstore, who is collecting kits for kids. We have kids in homeless tent city outside of Cocoa that don't have the things that they need. So we've been collecting them for the kids at Endeavor that are living in the tent city, 47 kids identified by the school district. And we've been doing that in front of the library. So I believe that it's shining a light, and we're doing that through our social media, on nonprofits, on different things in the community that changes the landscape of our community. And just doing that by showing with myself, going out there and being part of everything.
All right, Ms. Terry, same question. Talk to me about your leadership style. How are you different?
Sure. Well, I think my leadership style is a little more collaborative. I spent 27 years as a satellite systems engineer, and I brought large teams together to solve really challenging problems. And that's what I think our problems are going to take now, are large teams and collaborative efforts. So I really want to bring people together, our state leaders, our local leaders, and work on bipartisan solutions that can break through this partisan obstructionism, and that people from all sides can get behind. We really need to bring this district together. We really need to bring this country together, because we are split close down 50-50 down the middle. And if we don't work collaboratively together for the better, for the better of our people, instead of for our national parties, then we're not going to get anywhere. So I want to bring those people together. I want to partner better with our state and local leaders and really get some solutions going in this district.
All right, we'll stick with Ms. Terry for a second here. What is the first bill that you would file if sent to DC? And please explain it.
Well, I guess that would kind of depend on where we are right now with the economy, where we're going to be in January. But I think one of the first things that I would do is I would take the child care tax credit out of Build Back Better and do that first, along with the extending the free meal program. Now, if those things are done between now and then I would go back, and probably the first bill that I would file would be to codify Roe versus Wade in legislation.
All right, let's move over to Ms. Dodge. What is the first bill you would file and why?
The first bill that I think we need to file is to create a more fair tax system. We need to stop raising the taxes on wage earners and focus on areas where there's a lot of extra income that is not being taxed right now, like on stock trades or capital gains, or looking at people that are making their money on dividends and things like that, and not wages. People that are earning wages are making less money because they're paying higher tax rates. So we need to make sure that the tax system is fair. There's also, in this next year, the tax standard deduction is going to be going up for working people, while the tax break for the corporations is staying the same. And so we need to make sure that the tax break for working people is extended and it's not raised on the working people.
Let's talk about the space industry for a moment. We're expecting as many as 48 launches next year. And obviously this is probably the busiest and fastest growing time among jobs, employment, new businesses coming in that we've had perhaps since the Apollo program, the shuttle program. So, I mean, it's really an exciting time along the Space Coast. Ms. Dodge, first of all, are we moving in the right direction with that? Do we need to tweak how we do that? And how do we continue to bring more jobs in to have higher paying salaries?
Well, that's a really important question. And I think that the space industry is a very important part of our economy here. And so that we do need to focus on making sure that we have the funding that we need to provide those programs so that they can bring jobs here and that we can support that. And one of the ways I think that we do that is we often focus on the large corporations that already have all the money, like SpaceX and Blue Origin and things, and they have, tons of money, but there's a lot of small ones like Rocket Lab or Firefly and smaller satellite companies, or Craig Technologies that we have right here in Cape Canaveral. And so I think that we need to focus on how small businesses that want to be part of the space industry have access to that as well. About 41% of people actually work for small businesses, not these huge corporations. And many times we focus on how we can get the big businesses to come here, but I think we need to get the small businesses too, and then the ones that are here, that we support them with policies and things that allow them to grow here as well.
Ms. Terry, do you agree we need to try to focus on some of those smaller businesses that don't get the headlines on the front page of the paper and the lead story on local newscasts? And if so, how do we do that?
Well, I definitely think that we do need to have a focus on small business as well. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is simply by highlighting those, like Danelle said, by being the example. But I also want to say that in terms of the space industry, that one of the things that I think we really need to do is focus on our schools here and the education system here in Brevard County and Indian River County, because like you said, we are second in the nation for job growth here in Brevard. I just saw a report over the weekend, and we are not preparing our children to fill those jobs. In fact, our governor just pulled funding from the MIMS Learning Center and Innovation Lab that is specifically geared towards helping our minority communities get STEM education to fulfill those jobs. So I think we need to be spending a lot more money and resources to prepare our young people to fill those jobs. And I also think that we need to be balancing that growth with protecting our environment, because I think to attract the businesses and attract the people here, we need to have a good environment for the employees as well. But yes, I also agree that we definitely need to encourage more small business. And I think there's a lot of ways to do that through government IRAD programs, the internal research and development programs, to make sure that our small businesses get the funding that they need as well to participate in the space industry.
You know, as the space industry continues to grow, we have other parts of the economy that's in District 8 that is struggling. I mean, right now, 12% of the population lives in poverty. There's been this ongoing debate, and Florida is escalating its minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2026, thanks to an amendment passed by voters. But on the federal level, is that something that we can be doing that would affect not only District 8, but the rest of Florida and the rest of the nation to raise those wages along the Space Coast?
I think so. I think that that's very important that we raise the federal minimum wage as well. And I think one of the things that we can also do to help is support like the Space Coast unions, where we have workers that have a say in their future, in their retirement, in their wages. And we're seeing kind of a growth across the nation in young people in Generation Z realizing the benefit of unions and how that can work to make their futures more affordable and brighter, and for them to have a retirement. So I think it's important for us to, on the federal level as well, for the federal government to say, you know, we would like to create jobs and work contracts with employers that also support their employers if they want to have a union, right? It's up, the employee should have that choice.
So again, before I move on to Ms. Terry and get her response, in other words, lifting up the rest of the economy that may not be space related, if you can just in 30 seconds or less, what was the most important thing that needs to be done from a national level to get federal dollars or federal programs into the county and the district?
I think collaboration and working with the programs that already exist as well. There are programs for, like we talked about, for small businesses, but also for education. So creating that pipeline where we visited, for example, the Treasure Coast Technical College, their welder showcase. And it was beautiful to see all the students that were either high school graduates or returning education folks, and companies, collaborating with the companies to hire them right out of training. So they knew when they got that certificate that they were going to be going right to work. And if we start those collaborations, like with the STEM programs, and Eastern State Florida College is also working on programs to provide jobs, and not just in the space industry, but for welding, for cooking, for childcare, for all of the things that we need in the community, to be able to go straight from high school to technical school or do it simultaneously. And that lifting up those programs will help people to miss that gap. They'll be able to go right to work and be able to feed their families.
So, Ms. Terry, going back to the the original outline for the question here, we've got 12% of the district below the poverty level. $15 minimum wage might be one thing that can help. Do you have a different idea?
Well, I also think that we need better representation to get jobs down here. Like, for example, our current representative, he didn't vote for the infrastructure bill. He voted no. And then even when it passed, he didn't put forward any projects for our district. Those projects and those funds could come down here and add more jobs. I also think that we need better funding. We need to partner with our local agencies and get better funding down here for transitional programs. People that can, programs that can take people from poverty, especially those that are struggling with homelessness and food insecurity, and transition them into real working jobs where they can become more economically independent. I think we need to do that with housing, and I think we need to do that with healthcare because, you know, Florida did not take the Medicaid expansion, and I think we need to do that with food insecurity.
Let's change gears. We'll stick with Ms. Terry for a second. Let's talk about the Indian River Lagoon. This was described recently by Florida Audubon as a waterway in crisis. There have been unexplained deaths of manatees, dolphins, pelicans. We've done a lot of these stories over the last couple of years. Do you have a plan for helping to protect the Indian River Lagoon?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I live on the Indian River Lagoon on the Grand Canal here in Satellite Beach, and I have watched it degrade over the past 10 years, and I have seen the raw sewage spills. And we have a lot of really good programs going on with the half-cent sales tax, but what we don't have are programs to deal with the contamination, the causes, and a real commitment to the long-term plan. I think it is so easy to think, you know, when the winter comes and the water clears up, things are getting better. And so people kind of get a little bit lax about it, but we really need a long-term commitment to what it's going to take to just not just restore it, but to prevent our large development from making the problem worse. So again, I want to partner with the state, the local, because there's 5 counties involved there. It can't just be our county, and the federal resources to not just do the studies. I mean, our current representative has done a lot of good studies, but now it's time to take those studies and start taking action. So my plan is to make a commitment to that long-term plan.
Ms. Dodge, what's your thoughts? What's your plan when it comes to helping to clean up and preserve the Indian River Lagoon?
Thank you for that question. I think we need to demand that the dollars and the stuff that we're already putting into it, like the half-cent sales tax, is being used to make sure that we are getting the answers to the questions that we really need answers to. For example, a lot of the testing that's being paid for by the half-cent sales tax doesn't give us the answers to what's actually causing the problem, the death of the seagrass, which is what feeds the manatees and causes the death of the manatees. We can work together with the EPA and the National Estuary Program. They work in concert with important estuaries in the nation to raise dollars and put the focus where it needs to be to make sure that we have a clean and healthy lagoon. And the reason we need a clean and healthy lagoon, besides the environmental impact, is because it also affects jobs and housing prices and our communities. It's a big part of 159 miles of lagoon that runs through our whole district. So we need to look at things that maybe thinking outside the box, like corporations like Home Depot and Lowe's that we have that selling things in Brevard County and Indian River County. Why can't we have them to be selling fertilizers or pesticides, things like that, that are safe, or car wash? We ask our citizens, don't wash your car at this time, don't fertilize your lawn at this time. And those are good small things that we can do. But how about we get corporations and businesses on our side as well? The same with business development, as we are adding another launch pad or different things in the community to work that we make sure that we have solutions for stormwater runoff, because too much stormwater runs into the lagoon, reduces the salinity of the lagoon, and that causes death and plant life because it changes the nutrients in the lagoon. So I think that we need to get corporate partners, federal partners, as well as the things that we're already doing, and make sure that we have a lot of ways to fix the problem.
Let's move on to the January 6th, 2021 attack on the Capitol. As we're recording this debate, we've had a number of hearings that have been shown to the public so that they have an understanding of what happened there. And we know that more than 800 people have been arrested. the largest plurality of people involved have been from Florida, and many of them from Central Florida, including members of the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers. These are far-right groups that are, among others, that have obviously kind of raised concern in the public consciousness as they continue to see these images of what was going on January 6th. And I guess my question is, if you are sent to DC, is there something that we should be doing on a congressional level to try to clamp down on these groups or keep a better eye on them while, of course, not infringing on privacy rights? This is a tricky situation, and I wonder, how would you handle that? We'll start with Ms. Terry.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that question. Yes, it's absolutely a problem. And one of the first things I think we need to do is go back and look at the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2022. You know, our incumbent did vote against that as well. And I think that it's absolutely necessary to have that there are consequences for the people who engaged in the January 6th insurrection, and consequences for our elected officials who engaged in that as well once those investigations are complete and the evidence is in. But I think one of the largest things that we can do and that we should do on a congressional level is begin to deal with our disinformation problem. I think that poses a huge national security threat. And, you know, in this country, we have laws that protect our money. We have truth in advertising laws, and we have fraud laws that protect people from lying to us to steal our money. But we don't have a lot of protection to protect us from people who lie to us to steal our vote. And if our democracy is to survive, we must not value our money more than we value our vote. So we have to find ways through the judiciary system to be able to hold disinformation sources in the media accountable. And I think we can do that at a congressional level.
Ms. Dodge, same question. What exactly can we do? What would you do if you're sent to Washington to address these issues?
Well, I think that we need to focus on accountability. Like you said, we have so many people here from Florida and from Central Florida that were part of the insurrection. And a lot of that did come from misinformation and people getting told that it's okay to attack the government, or that the election was being stolen. And our own representative here, Bill Posey, he was part of that. You know, he signed on to the lawsuit with Texas to have Georgia and Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and in other states, votes not counted. And after it came out, and obviously we're learning now from the hearings that everybody seemed to know that he lost the election. And people to this day are still, and including Bill Posey, are endorsed by President Trump, former President Trump. And so we need people in office that are understand the truth, and we need to be putting the truth out there. And we also need, the FBI had put out that white supremacy or domestic terrorism was the biggest threat to national security, yet Mr. Posey voted down against the domestic terrorism bill, as well as the Republicans. They don't want to investigate that. They voted down to even look into domestic terrorism. So I think that we need to, as a Congress, be putting forth things directly to the Justice Department. We need Merrick Garland to step up and to hold these people accountable and to make sure that this never happens again.
I want to get back to the economy for a moment. You know, we're all staring at nearly or right at $5 a gallon gasoline right now. Inflation is the highest it's been in 40 years. They've raised interest rates again, which are pushing people farther and farther and farther out of the realm of home ownership. Ms. Dodge, what's the solution here? What can Washington do? What should Congress do? And what would you do if sent there to try to get a handle on this and make it possible for people, in some cases, to even afford groceries?
Right. Well, some of the things that are already trying to be done, for example, I mentioned in my opening about the gas prices, the price gouging, and we should not be allowing corporations to price gouge citizens, because their profit shouldn't be over the welfare of our people. So we also have a situation where we have just a few companies that are running everything. So just like 2 major oil companies or 4 airlines, they're in charge of the airlines, or banking and different things like that. So the antitrust laws that we used to be much more vigorously working on in the late 80s, we've let a lot of that stuff lapse. And as all of these companies consolidate, when they raise prices, they all do it together. So it's not allowing for competition. It's kind of actually the antithesis of capitalism as we want to see it, where we have other businesses that can come in and offer a lower price so that people can have a place to choose. Right now, we don't have a lot of choice. We go down the street at the gas station and it's $5 over there, and it might be only $4.99 over there. So the limited number of companies that are being supported by subsidies and the federal government, that's our tax dollars. Maybe we should be taking those subsidies and handing them back to the people in the form of a rebate instead of giving it to Chevron, who made $300 billion, or the group of them together. So I think we need to look at ways to use the dollars that we are using to subsidize these companies that don't need our dollars to hand them back to the people who do need them.
Ms. Terry, getting a handle on the economy, what's your plan?
So I think specifically for the gas prices, I would also be in favor of releasing more of our strategic oil reserves, because I think those are short-term solutions. People are hurting right now, and we need things that are going to impact us right now. We can also work with the oil companies to not just ensure that they're not price gouging, but also to perhaps find ways that they would be willing to reduce their profit margins in times of national emergency, because right now we're getting supply side pressures from the war in Ukraine. But I would also strengthen and diversify our domestic food production, including strengthening not just the infrastructure and the transportation, but diversifying the production of food throughout the United States, so that we have more local sources of more of the food that we need. And then I also think that we need to make sure that we have the adequate COLA adjustments for our Social Security and veterans benefits, so that they don't get priced out. And then longer term, I really think we need to work on an economic plan, an economic recovery plan, so that if something like COVID happens again, or something that threatens to shut down our economy, we have a better thought out plan for how to deal with it, so that we're not having to experience these big the big down spike that we experienced that is now causing this big up spike. And we need short-term solutions to help smooth it out, and then deal with the long-term solutions from there.
I want to talk about our election security, because I believe one, if not both of you, mentioned this earlier on in our discussion here. We have certainly threats from Russia, from China, from the Middle East, from Africa. Are you concerned about our election security going into this election cycle here, not just in our August primary, but the November general election? And if so, what can or what should Congress be doing about that? Ms. Terry, we'll start with you this time.
Okay, well, I am more concerned about the perception of our election security than the actual election security itself. I think that with all of the scrutiny that the 2020 election had, that it found that we have fairly secure elections. The actual amount of fraud was few and far between. So this goes back to the disinformation campaign, both for how people trust our elections and how they decide to vote in the elections. I really think that we need to be using technology to get people better, easier access to better, more truthful information to be able to make those good decisions. And that we need to continue to use technology to secure our elections so that we can make it easier than just paper ballot counting. There are a lot of people around the country that have been contesting these elections, and they didn't want to certify the elections because they just don't trust these machines. And I think that that's, again, goes back to a disinformation campaign that we really need to address.
So I get that. Before we go on to Ms. Dodge, I mean, you would acknowledge that after the investigation into the 2016 election, that there were 3 counties in Florida that had breaches into their information systems and their computers. It didn't affect the vote. It didn't affect any ballot counting, but it was access, okay, and it was traced back to Russia. So I guess my question is, do you feel like we have cybersecurity systems in place on a state level or a national level to dissuade that and guard against that, or track it if it happens, or do we still have some work to do in that area?
I think we always have work to do in that area, because as much as we find out things that are happening and we can guard against that, and then the bad actors invent new things to do, right? Like there is always in technology, there is always a review that has to be ongoing every single election cycle. We need to have independent agencies out there testing our election security systems to ensure that we have them as secure as possible. And we need to be using the resources of our US Cyber Command to make sure that we're incorporating the latest technologies into our election system. There's nothing more valuable than securing our election and ensuring that we have free and fair and trustworthy elections. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, there must be continuous ongoing investigation, testing, and support, and we must never think that it's good enough.
All right, Ms. Dodge, same question.
Okay, so of course the answer is yes. There is a lot more that we need to do to make sure that our elections are secure. And I think we saw when we're talking about Russian interference, there was, the hacking groups, the Big Bear, and all those kind of things that were being tracked by the FBI, and those resources are definitely need to be in place. But I think we also need to look at, there was 8chan and 4chan, and we've got Facebook and Twitter and all of these social media companies. And there's a lot of ways that foreign bad actors can work their way into those systems. And that's, I think, where the majority of the disinformation is coming from. And in the last election, Facebook, they've been called in front of Congress multiple times, and they say, well, that's the person on the platform, it's not us. But I do think that they have a responsibility, and that we as Congress need to figure out how to make them be able to hold those people responsible or keep them off of the platform. We have worked on software companies and used technology we need to be able to identify people and know who's using the platforms and things. And so as a society and as our own company that we have worked on in educational technology and working out into the truth in information, is that we need more people to be identifiable and to put out there the information as what's really true. And we need the social media companies to work harder to make sure that those people are actual real people and not bots and not hacking groups and things that are just specifically putting out fake information to confuse and change our vote, and to, that's the way they're taking over our country, is through these insidious little ways behind the scenes.
So I want to be, I want to go back and get some clarity from both of you, actually, since Ms. Dodge kind of worked her way into a discussion about social media. As you know, there's been a state level crackdown under Republican leadership and Governor DeSantis when it comes to social media companies, and especially during election times, what they can do as far as removing politicians from their platforms. So I want you to clarify first, Ms. Dodge, are you suggesting that the government needs to play a larger role in controlling social media in that way, or simply help get social media the tools they need to keep posers, actors, and so forth out of our lives?
Right, absolutely the latter. And I'll tell you, for myself, as I tried to start my campaign and get on Facebook and Twitter, it was very, very hard. And they have put in place some things that make it almost impossible for political people to get on and, talk to their constituents. So I think that there can be a happy medium. We do need to make sure that the people that are on doing political, social, and those kind of things are legitimate people. And there are ways, and make sure that, yes, the posers and the people that are just generally seeking to sow disinformation and sow divisiveness and discord are not allowed to do so. And a lot of that is bots, and they do know how to track those bots, and they can go through and strip the bots out. And people will say this on Twitter. You can be on Twitter and you might have 10,000 followers one day, and they'll do a sweep and you'll notice that you'll lose 1,000 followers, and people are like, oh, nobody likes me anymore. But it really is like a bot sweep. So you can be grateful when, if you see a dip one day, because you know that those people are swept out of the system. And the anonymity of being on all of these platforms just allows more of that. So if we can have people, if the social media groups use real information to vet people that are getting onto the platforms ahead of time, then we're going to have a more accurate social media conversations.
All right, so Ms. Terry, there's a lot to digest there. So what exactly, and I know we initially talked about election security, kind of moved into a discussion about how there are really some issues about social media and what information gets out there. And it's, it tricks people, it fools people. And I think voters feel tricked and fooled, and they don't like it. So what exactly do we do about that in concert with social media platforms?
Well, I am not a fan of government regulation of private companies or social media platforms. I think that's a slippery slope. But what I am a fan of is, as you said, giving the social media company the tools that they can use to discern where information is coming from, and from giving people better access to information to be able to digest what they're seeing easier. A lot of it is made really to exhaust us, because you just get bombarded with things from every which way. So I think things like disclosure laws, as opposed to actual regulations, would be more effective, and working in partnership with the social media companies to determine the best way that they would like to see the government interact with them. I know they've had public service commercials out there wanting government intervention or government action to help them to equalize that playing field. And I think working together to come up and implement those solutions is really the right way to do it. So it doesn't look like that we're government against private industry or social media, but it's really about getting people the information that they need and the tools that they need to make sure that it's the right information as well.
All right, we're going to make this a lightning quick question. You each get 30 seconds. I know it sounds like not very much, but we've come to the end of our time here. We are so far spending $54 billion to assist Ukraine in defending itself against a Russian invasion. And I guess my question is pretty short and to the point. Are you supportive of that funding and the way it's being spent now, or do we need to do something different? We'll start with Ms. Terry and then go to Ms. Dodge.
Yes, I am in support of helping Ukraine as much as we possibly can without starting a war with Russia. I believe that Putin has sights on reestablishing the Soviet Union, and I think that if he's emboldened by success, that he's not going to stop. And I want the wars to stay off of our shores.
Ms. Dodge, 30 seconds.
Yes, I do think that it is important for us to assist Ukraine, and we need to be constantly reevaluating what that looks like and how much that is costing. The amount of money that we do spend there will be minuscule compared to the amount we will have to spend if they do succeed in taking over Ukraine, moving into other countries that we are NATO partners with, and that will bring us right into the war. So we need to think about that as well, and how our support for us to support them from here keeps us from having to support them, financially to support them on the ground, which is much more costly, not just in money, but in lives, American lives.
Thank you both. We've come to the end of our time. I'll give you each 1 minute to wrap. Please stick to a minute or less. And Ms. Terry, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this opportunity to debate today. Again, I am running for our congressional seat to represent all of the people in this district that are exhausted by the anger, that want to drive hate out of our community, and that want to stop the partisan obstructionism that is keeping us from making progress. I also want to bring representation back to the people of this district so that we can balance our economic growth with protecting our environment and protecting our people. I think it's a balance, it's not a choice, and I think we need to reestablish that balance. I will always put the people of District 8 first, and I am excited to represent the people here, and thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Dodge, 1 minute, please.
Absolutely. All I can say is that now is the time for strength, conviction, visibility, and action. We have kids getting slaughtered at school, a Supreme Court ready to take away women's rights over their own bodies. We have too many working Americans living in poverty, one paycheck away from being homeless. And we have a Republican plan to sunset Social Security and Medicare. The status quo has got to go. We have too many that have sat in Congress for too long. They are comfortable with big donors and have lost sight of their actual jobs. I have signed a term limits pledge because we all know a 2-year job was never meant to last a lifetime. So if you want true representation, a leader that shows up, who leads by example, and to never receive another form letter in response to your concerns, vote for me, Danelle Dodge, for Congress. And to learn more, you can visit my website at votedodge.com or on social media, every platform at Vote Dodge, because your district needs you too. Thank you.
All right, ladies, thank you both. You were very engaging. I appreciate you covering a range of topics in a short amount of time. And my hope is that a lot of the voters get a chance to go through each and every one of your comments so that they can make an informed decision. The Democratic voters in Congress 8 on August 23rd during the primary. Of course, the winner of this primary goes up against the incumbent in Congress District 8, Republican Bill Posey. Thank you for being here, and thank you all for watching.